What's good, party people? This is According to Woods, and I have the honor and privilege of talking to a Florida based, proud Puerto Rican wrestler. He is Panther. Panther, what's going on,
Yeah,
my man?
first of all, wait. Before you go any further, I'm originally born and raised in New York City. I am legit from the South Bronx.
Oh, damn,
That's a
right on.
yeah. So I moved to Florida in November of 2020. I'm not a legit Floridian, so to speak.
Yeah,
That's why when I tell people, and I'm announced from the South Bronx, it's not a gimmick. I really am from the South Bronx.
there you
I
go.
lived in Tennessee from time to time for quite a few years, wrestling out there as well. But like I was trying to tell you earlier in our conversation, um, the main thing, and it's driving me insane, is the fact that, and this was said by a major name to me, where a lot of promoters, he made a good point on Facebook about a year ago. He's tired of promoters and bookers getting together to keep in the gate, shortchanging these guys, giving these guys $15, $20, 25, 30, 35, $40 a pop, while these guys are busting their humps in the freaking ring
Yeah,
and risking their bodies. Now, wait a second. Here's the funny part about the crazy part, rather say, not ha ha funny, but the thing is that a lot of these guys are a lot of these companies draw big. Remember, I was telling you about the company running 70 shows somewhat a year?
mm-hmm.
Guys there got to be making a living. Apparently, it's only the major names they're bringing in, to my knowledge, and a couple of their local stars, which I will say there is a lot of talent in this company. I mean, major talent. I'm not, dissing nobody. I'm not downing nobody. But when one of your employees is debating with me, talking about that indie companies are operating at a loss, get the freaking hell out of here. You got to be out your damn crackhead mind. I had went live early and I said, if an indie so-called promoter, now notice I said so-called, says, well, we can't pay you much because we're operating on a loss, turn around and bounce. Don't even freaking tell them, well, we can work this. Screw that. And certain companies deserve that, because what happens is, if this individual accepts a $30, $40 payoff, that means they can get another individual to probably go for half or less, only
Mm-hmm.
just because of exposure trying to get on. Now,
Yeah,
there's no way in hell, if you're in a business, no matter what it is, you're in it because you're in it to make money. You're not in it to operate at a loss.
yeah,
Whether
100%.
it be whether it be wrestling, boxing, whatever form of sports or entertainment, whatever the case may be, you're not operating at a loss. If they're telling you that, because they're trying to keep as much bread for themselves as possible. That's all that is. And I done
Yeah,
seen it. And this particular company, they pay a lot of their top stars. Yes, they do. I'm not saying they shortchange them and their local guys. But if you're running 70 shows a year, I'm sorry to tell you, the majority of your card better be making a living off of you.
oh,
70
100%.
freaking shows a year and you're drawing. And then on top of that, you got a main name training your folks. You know what I'm saying? And he's a huge name. I ain't going front. I'm not trying to put him on blast because he has no bearing in it. You know what I'm saying? He's a hell of a trainer. You know what I'm saying? Let's just say he was part of the brood,
Okay. Yeah, I know exactly. I know
right?
exactly what you're talking about.
Phenomenal
Yep.
trainer, former student of the great Malenko, who is
Yeah.
probably one of the best, if not the best in the game when it comes to training. And you talked about Sean Waltman. Sean Waltman trained under the great Malenko, and I believe Dean, if
Yeah,
I'm not
Dean and
mistaken.
Joe. Dean and Joe, both Malenko
Yeah,
brothers,
yes,
as well
yeah,
as
you're right.
yeah, and Debbie Malenko, who might not be a shoot family with them, but she takes the name and wears it proudly.
She's like Sarah Del Rey. She's freaking awesome.
Yeah, hundred
Um,
percent.
but anyway, so my gripe, and a lot of guys got with me, is that they think I'm opening my mouth too much, exposing the business. Ain't nobody exposing a damn thing. What I am exposing is the low ball payoff, because I said to myself, okay, let's take it back to the territory days. In the territory days, every state had one or two major companies, and that was it. It wasn't really an oversaturation of companies. Okay. That being said, there was so much money to go around. People were making money left and right. They were making some serious bread. Florida, the Mid-South, Northeast,
AWA?
Midwest. Say what?
AWA?
That would be Midwest.
No,
But you know what I'm saying?
okay.
No, wait. Upper Midwest. Yeah. That's Minnesota. That area, that's considered Midwest. But, so my thing is, all those guys made money. Of course, Vince McMahon did what he did, so on and so forth, supposedly killed the territory system. Now, all of a sudden, a lot of indie companies are coming out of left field. And once that happened, because if you noticed, half these indie companies were never out in those 70s, or let alone the 60s. It was a territory thing until Vince McMahon shut it down. Now, all of a sudden, you got 50,000 different companies coming from these damn different states. Everybody's cutting everybody's throat, monopolizing the game, and literally starting to shortchange these guys because they know that their main goal is to hit it to either WWF at the time or Jim Crockett, because AWA was non-existent at this point. So now all these indie companies are coming out, and the practice of shortchanging guys, which I'm pretty sure was out even when the territories was out. But still, there was so much money to be freaking made. Now, with these indie companies here, and especially in Florida, mind you, I don't know about California, but I'm assuming California is the same too. Because I know for a fact, you got a couple of Mexican promoters in California. California got quite a few of them. And first-hand knowledge, or rather say second-hand knowledge, I should say, for lack of a better term, I know quite a few guys that worked out there, and a lot of the Mexicans that work out there, mind you, a lot of them are, yes, they do come from Cali, but some of them actually come from Mexico to work at what's considered, I guess, well, a little bit above their rate per se, but when you convert U.S. money to Mexican money, I guess that's the difference maker. I'm not quite sure how that works. But I was told, man, everywhere they shortchange these guys because they know. They just know that. See, the thing is, a lot of these guys drive themselves in, crossing the border in California. So right there, that cuts away transportation costs, and which is kind of ingenious because you got so many luchadors down in Mexico wanting to get a big break here in the States. And they'll do whatever the hell they do or whatever it takes, just to do so, which is fine by me. But, the practice of accepting lowball payoffs has become a cancer to where you would literally have to go out of the country or work for a decent company that's going to give you the wage you want where you're profiting instead of breaking even or losing money, and a lot of these companies, when I go on lives and I do these things, I know for damn sure a lot of these guys hate on me. Oh my God. But a lot of them respect what I say because some of these guys are going through the exact same thing, like for example, and I don't know if this is the wrestling gods or the Lord himself, but I was scrolling through Facebook one day. And, I use social media a lot for businesses and bookings and things of that nature. Ran into one guy, Florida, mind you. Apparently, nobody wanted to do this one particular match, a hardcore cage match. Out of left field, sent him my info. Something told me, send him your info. Send him this, send him that, send him this. Long story short, they got me in the main event. Now, mind you, this card has Two Cold Scorpio, Elijah Pope, some big indie guys, guys from the West, New Mexico area and so on. And I think might be Cali too. I'm not too sure. But nonetheless, it's taking place in Miami, October 30th. It's called Reefer Mania.
Okay.
The name kills me. But apparently, there's going to be a lot of vendors there and so on. But the fact that I got picked to wrestle in that match was freaking awesome. The pay, great, and it's Miami. Then the following week, Colorado. This particular promoter, man, he literally met me halfway, more than met me halfway, and so that worked out well. But for anybody to say that indie promoters that which operates at a loss, oh, dude, that grinds my gears so bad, so
Well,
freaking bad.
now is the promoter saying the promotion is promoting at a loss, or
The promoter's not saying this. It's one of the employees is saying that a lot of these indie companies are operating at a loss. Indie companies in general are operating at a loss.
yeah,
I'm like,
that's
that is a bunch of BS.
yeah, that's well, nah. I mean, it's not complete. I mean, this is just kind of what I know, right? Now there are some that are. I mean, here in LA, it's much like New York, where New York has the unions, right? So you have to pay a pretty high premium to kind of do the Hammerstein and what have you. You might be out 10 G's if you want to run the Hammerstein. So no regular indie company, at least what I can understand. Now, in terms of California, just because of real estate and what have you, yeah, like there are some venues that maybe 3 to 5, right? So then you book a big name, which a big name to draw maybe a 300, 400, uh, gate, per person gate, you probably have to pull in, you're charging a premium ticket first off, and then obviously you're paying maybe about anywhere from $800 to $1,500 for talent, and sometimes even more than that. I'm hearing like guys like Danielson and the new free agents, the Adam Coles, Danielsons, and Ruby Riot. They come at a pretty high premium, and they got to be booked through AEW. But with that all being said, you might be out 10 G's, right? And if let's say if you charge $50 a ticket. Let's just say, right? $50 a ticket, and there's only 300 people there. Yes, it's a decent chunk of change, but you might barely break even, and especially if the guys and girls are, have a merch stand and whatever, that's not going to you. That's something in their contract or agreement that, to circumvent what they are or aren't being paid, particularly, you can sell gimmicks, and you kind of make up whatever. But the promoter is supposed to pay for trans for sure, and then whatever their going rate is. But I mean, as best I understand it.
Well, I can agree with that. In that sense, I can understand that. But see, that goes to my other point where not every company can be called an indie company.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Now, you got companies out there that are legit operating at a loss, but those aren't indie companies. Those are those Bush League fly-by-night companies that they got a ring, they got a name, so they decided to throw a show and become a promoter type of thing. That's different. That's not even an indie company. Indie company to me would be like, how do I say? Well, I mean, a real indie company at that would be like Mission Pro. Let's see here, Ring of Honor, Major League Wrestling, um, California. What company in California I could say? Well, you got one
Like
that my brother wrestled for, UIPW.
that's
Uh,
definitely yeah, that's definitely indie. But would you say like PWG might be an indie, or
that's an indie.
PCW?
That's definitely an indie. That's a yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And here's the thing: their revenue not only comes from the internet and what people order in terms of DVDs and streamlining stuff. They're a sister company to Ring of Honor. I don't know if you guys noticed that, but
PWG?
yeah, of course. Them, Full Impact Pro, all these guys got working relationships. You know what I mean? And so they're making decent money. I'm sure of that because a lot of their venues, these guys are always drawing a big house. Always, 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 always. Now
So
to say that they're drawing the same house or making the same money when Brian Danielson, Adam Cole, and Kyle O'Reilly and Chris Hero and all these guys are with them, Ricochet and all that.
So what would be
Possibly.
what would be considered? Because like, would you consider theoretically Impact Wrestling to be an indie?
No.
And
Impact
and why
Wrestling would have
and
to
why
be, wait a
so?
second, they're, I would say they're major league. They're not super major. I mean, you got WWE, AEW, and Impact. And the only reason why, because Impact, of course, their history, their TV deals, and so on. So I would have to say Impact's not really an indie. They're more of a major company. They're one of the top three. Now, most people would say, well, they should have a top five because Ring of Honor, of course, in Major League Wrestling. So, in that sense, I would say that five major companies. Uh, the latter, of course, being kind of indie, but well, it's indie as compared to like AEW, WWE, because these two are like major, and then slightly major would be Impact. They're known all over the world, of course. You know that. I know that. They're global. They got a global market. Um, I'm not saying Ring of Honor or Major League Wrestling doesn't have a global market, but they're seen globally. But I don't know if they're, you know, a global company like AEW would be or WWE, considering they're in the public trading, you know. And for a company to be in the public trading to the stock market, you're making buku dollars. I mean, shoot. And not to jump ship on AEW, but a lot of people don't realize AEW is smart as hell. They're offering their wrestlers what WWE is not offering theirs. Whatever WWE's wrestlers are not being offered, AEW's offering.
Mm-hmm.
And their schedule is not as rough.
Oh, 100%.
And you know, WWE, their schedule is like out of a month, you might be home maybe 2 or 3 days a week. 2 or 3 days a month, excuse me. 4 days a month. AEW not like that, you know. You go in for your tapings. You know, you got your public appearances, of course. So with the public appearances and the tapings and so on, you know, you got a pretty good schedule. Now, of course, WWE, you know, they're not going to allow you to wrestle for nobody.
Mm-hmm.
So you're doing all the public appearances. You're barely home. You're living out of a suitcase.
Right.
And that's another thing too. A lot of people don't realize their rings, the way their rings are constructed. It's not. How do I say this? It ain't like a I don't know if you know what a flexi beam is. Flexi beam ring would be like, let me see, like a WCW ring.
Okay.
That's a flexi beam, as opposed to WWE's ring, which is a spring system. But stiff as hell though.
Mm-hmm.
I've worked in their rings a few times doing enhancement work back in the days. One of them was against Kamala. God bless her soul.
No.
And you know, my thing generally is, you know, it's, how do I say this? Oh boy, my thing generally is that their ring was stiff. It's stiff, but it's not stiff. You know,
Right.
Brock Lesnar said it in an interview where his friend wanted to know what it was like to wrestle. So Brock Lesnar apparently owns his own WWE ring.
Yeah.
Brings the guy to the ring and slams it. The guy's like, my God. And Brock Lesnar tells him, this is what we work on over 300 days out of the year. And that's coming from Brock Lesnar's mouth.
Right. Yeah.
So this man is a legitimate UFC fighter, or was. And if he's telling you that, you know, and that, I'm not saying those rings are super stiff like concrete, but it ain't like a WCW ring. It ain't. The whole systematic way of the way it's made is completely different. And it's wild though, because you would think with all that money you would want to conserve your wrestlers' bodies. And I tell people, why do you think half these guys get themselves knocked out when they bang their heads on the mat? Because that thing is stiff as shit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not to say that if it wasn't that stiff, they wouldn't be knocked out. No, I've trained in the WCW ring in Atlanta with New Jack. God bless his soul. Training with New Jack a little bit, me and my brother, and that WCW ring, dude, it was man, I loved it. Don't get me wrong, I was sore at the end of the night, but you could tell the difference, you know. And so my thing is, you know, not I know I tend to jump the subject quite a bit, I change the subject a lot, but I honestly think wrestlers should have a union. Pro wrestlers should have a freaking union because so many guys are getting ripped off left and right, man. And it shouldn't be that way. I mean, there's so much talent out there that deserves a plane ticket. There's so much talent out there that deserves a good pair. There's talent out there that has families. These guys are risking losing their families for what? $20, $25?
Yeah.
All because some carny freaking stooge is going to say, well, we're operating at a loss. Now, here's the crazy part. You know, you got a lot of companies out there, a lot of people rings calling themselves companies. They're more Bush League, if you will, outlaw show type, if you will. And those guys, I know for sure, cannot, under any circumstances, afford to pay wrestlers what they're worth. I wrestled for a few of these companies, albeit because I wanted to be in the ring
Right.
and I wanted to get exposure. But the inner workings was horrible in the sense that dudes is getting paid $20 here. One of the highest paid guys is like 40, 45. And I was like, oh, shit. I was like, damn. And even though I kind of knew it, but I'm thinking to myself, there's a lot of hungry dudes here. But see, a lot of these dudes, strangely enough, count on that to feed their families. And when you think about it, the term business goes out the window because now it's not a business. You're basically pimping these guys out for little to nothing.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, and it ain't right. And that's why we wrestlers need a union, which is really weird, though, because Zelina Vega, I believe is this guy's fiance, Malachi Black's, whatever. But
Oh, wife, yeah.
Zelina, huh?
They're married.
Oh, are they? Awesome. Lucky bastard. But the thing is, you know, she said the same thing. Wrestlers should have a union. And I think that's part of the reason of her being let go. But apparently they brought her back.
The sole reason why she was let go.
Right. But she came back. You want to know why? To my knowledge, my educated guess is the fact that they would have gotten sued. Because if you're firing somebody for just saying, yo, wrestlers should have a union, oh, I'm sorry, man, but that is a lawsuit and a half. And I am damn sure WWE knew it.
Do you know what they were making on Twitch?
I
You'd be
had
upset
that
too.
conversation.
No, you'd be upset. Like a kind of a guy who's semi-active on Twitch, like I don't know what he's called now, but he was Tyler Breeze, right, with Fandango, right? And to me, he was very much like the I think a new spin, you know, like a current era Gorgeous George, like that to me. That's how I saw him, and they completely dropped the ball with him. But he was making 40 G's, just doing exactly what you and I are doing now, and he was on the lower end. Guys like gals like Thea Trinidad, but guys like Adam Cole and Xavier Woods, which that's one that I don't want to, I don't want to get into anybody's money. It's none of my business or whatever. But Adam Cole and Thea Trinidad or Zelina Vega, right? But she doesn't go by Zelina on her Twitch channel, right? And that's the reason why I say it. It's no disrespect, not trying to shoot on her or anything like that, but they're making six figures. And that's more than their downside guarantees. And that's why, and then when the WWE said, hey, imagine the frustration, right, of her not being used. Andrade had already been released, right? So she's kind of, going upstream without a paddle, right? And then, but she's making great money here. as is her husband, right? They're each making, anywhere from 90 to six figures a year just doing Twitch, right? And then when the WWE wants to take that away and almost dangle the carrot and go like, hey, we'll give you that push that you wanted, right? But pay me. When you're only giving me a 90,000 downside and no merch money, yeah, I'm gonna take the Twitch money, and that's kind of what happened.
Yeah, man. But anywho, let me ask you a question. I'm not gonna ask you a question.
Go for
I
it.
was also no. I wasn't a question. I was actually thinking something else. Um, and I'm kind of glad I got this live platform because a lot of people tend to forget certain things about me, and I'm gonna use this for that, if you don't mind. Um, One, the guy that trained me, I tell a lot of people this, a lot of people tend to forget. The guy that trained me was trained by Antonino Rocca. Don't know if
Yeah,
you know who that
great.
is.
Of course I do. Headline
Oh,
the
well, I don't
Garden.
know that. Not everybody does. Not everybody
Yeah,
does.
Argentine
My
Rocca. Hell yes.
yes. My trainer was
Former
trained
rug.
by him in New York City because Rocca and Miguel Perez, they
Mm-hmm.
had a gym out in New York City. Of course, some of their trainees went on to be major names.
Yeah,
Two of them I know for sure was Johnny Rods and Pedro Morales.
yeah, and then even Miguel Perez Jr., who's a part of Los Barricos in the mid
Well, no,
'90s.
but he didn't train with them. He trained in Puerto Rico. But my point is, so my trainer Bobby Boldigo, what the deal was, see, back in the New York City days, and back in those days in New York City, I don't know if many other places in the country has it like that. And I'm pretty sure they do, especially California. But in New York City, you had a lot of different wrestling gyms throwing non-sanctioned bouts under the state athletic commission's nose
Mm-hmm.
every week. Literally, you had guys 14, 15 years old, 16 years old wrestling, trying to apply their trade, blah, 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 blah. And through that system of wrestling, I got to meet, of course, Cactus Jack. SD Jones became one of my best friends. Black Gordman, who helped mentor me a little bit. And I don't know if you know who Black Gordman is, but the
He's a
dude's,
legend here in LA.
oh, big time.
Grand Olympic Auditorium.
Wrestling, period. Him and Great Goliath, yeah. Nonetheless, he lives in Brooklyn now, I believe, Black Gordman, unless he moved back to Mexico. But the point is, worked with him, worked with Frank Williams. Um, and then towards the end of this one particular show that this gym was having, my trainer came and got me. So we go to this gym where it's being set up at. He's sharing the gymnasium or the gym itself with Johnny Rods. He had certain days. My trainer had certain days. And he broke it down to me. This dude would literally treat it like an actual classroom where he would bring in crates of tapes from England, Japan, Mexico, Canada, show you different publications and things of that nature. Tells you pick out what you're going to pick out, study it, come back the next day and let's see what you learned. He'll have a monitor there with a VCR. Back then it was VCR, no real DVDs at the time.
Right.
And we would literally be like, listen, this is what I picked up, this is what I learned. And we would duplicate it in the ring, however long it would take. He would have about 45-minute drills broken down into amateur wrestling and shoot wrestling. And
Wow.
sometimes he would, yeah, literally. He says it's great to learn the basics because that's where it came from. And if you don't know it, you can get taken advantage of and so on. And he would do that. And I'm talking about he had a plethora of guys in his gym. At the time, it was called Gleason's Arena. The name of the school was called Bobby Boldigo's Wrestling Academy in Brooklyn. And he had guys like Big Guido from ECW trained there. My trainer trained him. Brian Donahue from the New York Jets back in the days was trained by him. Who else was trained by? All together.
Rock.
Who?
Yeah, so it says, at least on the interwebs, the Dirt Bike Kick, Rock, Jason Knight, Chris Canyon are all, and you're on here too. It says his former students include Billy Firehawk, Tiger Khan, Peligro, Panther.
Yeah, that's my boy Abraham. But there's a lot of information left out of that. That's probably the Wikipedia page, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
But the real deal with that is like, My trainer got to wrestle for Vince Senior a lot, but mostly overseas. Did a lot of stuff in Japan and the middle. Matter of fact, he was one of the first guys to tour the Middle East with dudes
Yeah.
like Fonseca, Samu, Phantasma, Carlos Colon, Carl Gotch,
Yep.
Luthez,
Billy
and
Robinson later. Yep.
Billy Robinson was a part of that tour later on. Yeah, you're right about
Yep.
that.
Mm-hmm.
And Scott Casey and all these guys.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna tell you, man, he showed me quite a bit of stuff that he talking about how Carl Gotch and Luthez almost made him cry.
Oh, I believe
So
it. Yeah.
yeah. So anyway, I was trained by him, and he was teaching me all these different things. And there were times where once a week he would have me in the gym on a personal level, um, teaching me German suplexes, bridges, and it would be like one of those type of trainings where, and I come to find out, he would use me to tune him up when he would do his tours, like in England. I'm thinking, well, hell, if I'd have known that, I'd probably try to get paid for it. But of course, I loved wrestling so much back then that I really didn't care. I just wanted to be in the ring and showcase what I know. And with all this, believe it or not, and the reason why I'm bringing up my background and so on, I've seen a lot of guys coming up through this, especially in Brooklyn. In Brooklyn, we had, now this is the late 90s, there was an influx. It was like a cataclysmic shift and change in the late 90s with wrestling and how wrestling was presented, um, especially in New York City. And in these gyms, you had these dudes doing stuff that I was like, oh, damn. I knew it. I first saw standing shooting star press and all that. And I've seen all these dudes doing their thing. And I'm going to tell you their names, the SATs,
Mm-hmm.
Quiet Storm and Raisin Red. And I've seen them when they first started. And you knew something was about to pop up. And this is the late 90s. Now, fast forward 20 years later, Quiet Storm lives in Japan, been there for like damn near
Yeah.
20 years, 15, 20 years. Wrestled for Noah, wrestled for all kinds of companies in Japan. Still does to this day. Amazing Red, his name speaks for itself. Homicide, I met him back in 93, 94, doing the little system of wrestling gyms and stuff like that and so on. Homicide, who was another, there's quite a few names out there that I can throw at you. And these guys can't, and I seen them coming up through that system. Me, what screwed up my career, and I ain't gonna lie, I'll be man enough to say it, was in so little words, chasing pussy, because I
Yeah.
was basically behind my exes, and it was like being whipped without a belt. Let me put it to you that way. So yeah, but I try to remind people. Listen, I've been around the block. I've had a cup of coffee here and there with several companies. I wrestled for NWA Eastern Championship Wrestling a few times. And people are like, NWA Eastern Championship Wrestling, who the hell are they? Well, if you don't know who they are, you're gonna have to get out from under that rock. Um, I was with them right before they became Extreme. Um, Strangely enough, oh, good Lord, I got my first taste of being put through a table by, what are their names? They two twins, the
Oh,
Bruise
there's.
Brothers,
Yeah,
the
yeah. I trained up in
Harris
Eli
Brothers.
Blues. Yeah,
Yeah,
the
yeah, the Harris Brothers.
Harris twins.
Yes, sir. I wrestled them too. I did a match with Shane Douglas and Mr. Hughes, which I got the video on. And I also did against Taz, which I also have that as well.
When he was still the
Uh,
Tasmaniac.
yeah, he was a Tasmaniac. Yeah, yeah. He was, and it was. I know Pete personally.
Okay.
I met him years ago. I mean, I haven't seen him in damn near close to 30 years, really.
Wow.
Uh, yeah, because he would when he got with Paul Heyman and everything else, and his nose got a little bit stuck in the air, so to speak. But that's another story.
I heard that.
But
I heard that. He was one of my favorites, as like, because I'm a short, portly son of a bitch, and he was a short, portly son of a bitch that dropped people on their motherfucking heads, and I'm all like, that is my guy.
no,
You'll
I'm not
survive
taking
if I
nothing
let
away
you.
from him. Peace and nurture. But no,
Yeah.
I'm not taking nothing away from his ability
Right.
or his in-ring repertoire. It's more of the person.
Oh, I heard. Yeah. No, I heard stories. Yeah, 100%.
It's the person.
Yeah, 100%.
One dude, God bless his soul, uh, we trained with him and lived with him for about little less than 2 weeks. Me and my brother was New Jack, and we was in his house. I was playing PlayStation with New Jack, playing him again in Madden. And New Jack's the real freaking deal. He's one of the few wrestlers I can legitimately say, you know, between New Jack and Jerome Young, not much of a difference.
Yeah.
There's slight differences, but there's not much.
Yeah.
You know, God bless him. He was a phenomenal athlete who was trained by Ray Candy. I don't know if you know who
Yeah.
he is.
Of course.
One half of the Zambui Express.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I tell people too, like, I remember one show I did my first time down south, North Carolina. It was for a guy named David Isley. I guess he was trying to resurrect Mid Atlantic Championship Wrestling back then, and I was listen. I just wanted to wrestle, so the payoff was pretty decent. Hotel was paid for, so why not, right? I was like, screw it, why not? And then it was awesome though because once I got in the locker room, I ain't gonna lie to you, I never told too many people this story, but I almost froze. I literally almost froze, and I'm gonna tell you why I almost froze. When I saw Ivan Koloff and Wahoo McDaniel walking through, I was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
And to me, Ivan Koloff is one thing, but then you got Wahoo. Shoot,
Yeah.
this is the North Carolina. Wow, man, listen, I'm not putting him over. God bless his soul, like most people would say I have been. But this dude's been around since the late '60s wrestling. Up to that point, he has had at least 25, 26 years in the business. Up to that point when I did this particular show. So I've only had under 10 at the time. And I'm thinking, this is freaking Wahoo freaking McDaniel.
McDaniel, yeah. Football great.
He could, yes. A hell of a gridiron. That's how he got the name Wahoo. The fans named him that.
Yeah, right there at was it Giant Stadium? Who's that? Wahoo! The whole fucking stadium would do it, and it's not the multi-billion-dollar stadiums that we know now, but it was almost to the effect of like a high school or college, fields. If you look at
Wahoo is badass, man. Yeah. You ain't lying. And so, I was almost froze there, and then, getting to work with guys like Coke Steele, Tommy Angel, and even in Tennessee, there was places that kind of reminded me of the old NWA days. I actually worked for a few NWA subsidiaries out there as well, and I got to wrestle for Tony Falk for a couple of years. I don't know if you know who Tony Falk is, but he's a very big Memphis legend, especially in the South or whatever, and wrestled his son a few times and wrestled for him for quite a few years, and learned a lot from the man with his stories and things like that. And I met quite a few people through him. Kid Cash. But Cash, I met Kid Cash in Connecticut. But I met who else I met there? Dirty Dutch Mantel.
Wow.
Phil Shatter. Well, obviously you know who he is.
Jackson Riker. Yeah.
Right. Who else I could say that's worth mentioning? Oh, believe it or not, he's a deathmatch. Well, he's on his way to be a deathmatch legend, John Wayne Murdoch, but he was under a different name.
Oh, wow.
Let's see here. Who else I can say? Jimmy Valiant, the Boogie Woogie Man, and his son, Gary, the Boogie Woogie Boy Valiant.
Yeah.
Those two individuals. Superstar Bill Dundee. I met, God bless his soul, Bobby Eaton.
Man, one of the greats, all-time greats.
Bobby Fulton as well. From the Fantastics.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Tommy Rogers, I met him in New York, wrestling in New York. But all great guys. And me, I mean, Tennessee has such a rich history in wrestling, as well as a lot of southern states. But I'm bringing these up because a lot of people tend to forget, look, I mean, I'm probably, and I'm shooting along on this one here, though, but I'm probably one of the most unknown, I'm going to say vets, for lack of a better term, only because if I took away all the years I've had injured on the sidelines, and I condensed all the years of wrestling together, literally, and take away the time, of course, from injuries and, like, yeah, and I mean, I've had some horrible injuries from bruised ribs, cracked ribs, concussions, bumps, head cracked open, broken limbs, right, all kinds of stuff, and all together they would add up to about 5 years worth of time off. I ain't gonna lie, it's about that long. So I would probably say between it's about 25 plus years in terms of wrestling. If you condensed with me
Yeah.
personally, we condensed it together. But I lost a lot chasing vagina, being a vagina chaser. So
It happens.
I'll admit that. Not too many guys will admit that because they feel their masculinity would be diminished or whatever you want to call it. And I'm still going at it. As a matter of fact, like I said, this Saturday got the hardcore cage match in Miami, Florida.
Yeah.
It's got you got a lot of guys headlining that card. You already know who Tuco Scorpio is,
Oh yeah.
Elijah Pope, and a couple of big indie names on there, and a couple of folks from out west, females alike, of course. Then you got then I got rather say I got Colorado or some freaking town, Las Animas, some indie company out there. But I'm only going out there not so much for the indie company, because the fact it's Colorado. I mean, like, dude, like, yes. No need to go any further there, but and plus I've never been, so that's gonna be I'm an adventurous kind of guy. I'm the type of dude. Like one time I had a booking in Maine, so the guy told me you shouldn't go up there unless you're gonna have it secure where you're gonna, have hotel, flight, all that. I was like, screw that. I'm taking a Greyhound. Well, nonetheless, I went to this company, got so cool with the promoter. Promoter wound up putting me up in his big ass house.
Wow.
Then, yeah. Then, listen to this. They shortchanged me on my pay, but then the gods must have been with me because some girl gotten seriously smitten, and she wound up taking me to her house.
Wow.
So
Hey.
the little 2-week trip in Maine turned out to be 2 months.
Oh damn.
Yeah, and I wasn't paid for nothing. Everything was being paid for by this chick. So that was great. I mean, even though I was getting unemployment compensation, but still, that was
Hey.
freaking great. It was
Yeah.
great. It was great. But yeah, let me tell you something. There's a culture. I don't know if I should say this or not, but there's a thing in wrestling where you got a lot of girls. Some people call them groupies. Some people call them
Rats.
ring
Maybe.
rats.
Uh-huh.
But these girls, I've seen them pay dudes bills,
Oh,
rent,
100%. 100%.
car notes.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, they're basically supplementing these guys' payoffs.
Hell
If these guys
yes.
are getting, yeah, exactly.
Especially if
So,
you were a heel, you couldn't sell
oh,
gimmicks, so you need to hook up with somebody that night. Otherwise you might not get home to your
I've
wife.
seen it happen. I've seen it. Hell, I've experienced it. I've met and seen so many girls, especially in Tennessee, Lord. But you know what? A lot of them won't mention their ring rats. And a lot of them won't even. Every state has them. Every state. I mean,
100%.
I'm pretty sure California is full of them. But nowadays, the ring rats are different than they were back then. Now they're more conscious, especially with this pandemic outbreak thing. They're
Oh
a lot
yeah.
more conscious now. But
Or the speaking out movement too. I mean, that pretty much, I mean, and it kind of needed to happen here in LA, but like it pretty much killed. I mean, LA had a pretty thriving indie scene, and it went away when everybody got Me Too. There was promotions that went away, wrestlers that went away, and everything like that. So I think it's a little bit more cautious. But then, I mean, I might have been at a couple shows, and there might have been a couple, but I mean, no hookups, like because it's a different time, like there might have been guys and girls been on their Nintendo DSs, and I mean, obviously, they'll have a beer with the boys and everything like that, but like, it's a different time. Nobody's doing lines. At least what I saw, nobody was doing lines, in the back.
LA, though, I was told from what I've seen, They got a couple of indie companies that's doing pretty decent. They have one, Crimson Crown Wrestling, I
Yeah,
think, uh,
okay.
uh, Underground Empire Wrestling, and UIPW. You got quite a few out there, but it's like I said earlier. You know, a lot of these companies, it takes money to make money, and a lot of them don't want to do that. That's basically what it boils down to. A lot of them don't want to invest. They don't want to pay guys. They don't want to fly nobody in. They don't want to bring nobody in. And if somebody flies themselves in, they're not going to pay them a decent wage that they deserve. They're not going to do none of that because a lot of these guys, like I said earlier, they done destroyed the game to where they now know they can pay a wrestler 40, $50. And if this guy ain't going to do it, there's 20 more behind them that would, So
Mm-hmm.
freaking
Yeah,
sad.
no, 100%. And I think that's also historically why Ed Strangler Lewis had the Gold Dust Trio, right? And the Gold Dust Trio, for those that don't know, it's Ed Strangler Lewis. I want to say it was Joseph Toots Montt, who ended up, along with Vince Sr., basically, you know,
Oh, you might want to go back before Vince. Hold on a second. I think I know this story.
go ahead.
Toots Monk.
Yeah,
Toots Monk was, believe it or not,
a shooter.
associated with Jesse McMahon,
Yeah, Jess McMahon. Yeah, yeah, 100%.
Vince's granddaddy.
Mm-hmm.
Then they broke it off. At the time, the NWA was called National Wrestling Association.
Yes,
This is
absolutely.
before the 1940s.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when Jesse broke off and wound up going up north, he formed his own company, which later on will become Capital Sports and, of course, Worldwide Wrestling Federation.
Mm-hmm.
What was left over, 1940 something, became the National Wrestling Alliance.
Right, exactly.
And I believe there was also a boxing company too, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, yeah, no,
But,
no. It was because the Crockett's they did wrestling concerts and the Harlem Globetrotters, whereas the McMahon, so well, specifically Jets McMahon, he did wrestling and boxing, and that's one of the crazy things historically that I kind of drive me insane because a lot of people attribute boxing and like Jack Johnson, obviously a pioneer, right? And he got booked in a lot. Jess McMahon was one of the promoters of Jack Johnson at the turn of the century, some here or there, right around, and at least towards the later part of his career. But the thing
yeah,
about it is, wrestling is what actually saved sports because crowds in boxing were actually weaning once they didn't have either a Jack Johnson or a God, I can't name a lot of the guys from the era, but those top drawing boxing guys when they didn't have either radio or later TV deals, right? Wrestling was easier to book, and the answers were a lot more palatable to the listener and later viewer. But I mean, literally, pro wrestling
hey,
saved
you want to
everybody.
know a fun fact? Here's a weird fact. I apologize for cutting you off, but this just popped in my head. I want to tell you this before it leaves. In New York State Athletic Commission, their law book, they got a book of their laws, right? When you apply for your license or you get
Yeah,
your license, they'll give you this book to read. Do you know why a promoter cannot be a wrestler in the state of New York?
no,
Because the matches could get fixed.
yeah, I believe it. Well, it's just
Dude, but isn't that like an oxymoron? Like, what the fuck? The
yeah,
promoter cannot be a wrestler because the matches are gonna. There's an actual law.
uh
That's an
huh.
actual law, and I find that to be hilarious.
Well,
Oh,
you mentioned about the union, right? And I obviously I wasn't there. I wasn't born. I was born almost a half a century after. But I would have to think that, like you were saying about a union, right? Maybe whether it be a boxer or a wrestler, well, specifically wrestling, right? There's a wrestler who might have gotten a shitty payoff and whatever, and it was just like, oh, and did you hear the promoter wants to put himself over? I'm the damn champion. Damn it, I'm the one who's drawing the house, right? So he probably talked to his friend at the commission, and they put that little line where a promoter couldn't be the booker as well, or the
yeah,
wrestler as
it,
well.
it was crazy when I read that law, dude. I was like, no, they didn't. I was like, oh hell no. But you know, some I will say this though. You know, The one thing I will say, you know, wrestling in general, and not to make light of it, but it legit saved my life to a degree. Actually, a lot of the ways. One was there was a show in the mid '90s, and the Queen's Elks Lodge, which ECW got to throw a lot of shows there after the company I was wrestling for,
Yeah.
and Iron Man Tommy Cairo, who I know personally, I've known him since I was 15.
Wow.
Iron Man Tommy Cairo, me and him are having lunch. You know, me and him, my trainer mentored Tommy Cairo for years before I even met Tommy Cairo. But Tommy Cairo, as I'm crossing the street, there was a car coming at 60 miles an hour. Within 1 second, Tommy Cairo pulled me out the way. It saved my life.
Oof. Wow.
Iron Man Tommy Cairo. And this is on our way to the show. And I kid you not, to this day, I still bring it up to him. He's like my big brother in pro wrestling, literally. Iron Man Tommy Cairo. Known him for years.
Yeah.
And he
ECW
saved my
alumnus.
ass. Say what?
ECW original. I mean, an Eastern Championship
Yes.
Wrestling. We're talking the Tri-State Alliance with Todd Gordon and everything. Tommy Cryer. I think wasn't he in the first ECW?
Singapore Cane days.
Yes, absolutely. There you go. 100%.
Singapore Cane. He pretty much was one of the innovators of it.
Mhm.
At the one time, he was considered actually the innovator of violence. Not so much as the way they do it with Tommy Dreamer,
Yeah.
but with Tommy Cairo, it was similar to that, as he was being compared. You know, he was being called that to a degree. But Singapore King deal, yeah, you know, it's. I actually wrestled for Tommy Cairo. He became a promoter in the 2000s. I wrestled for him from 2006 all the way to 2008 for 2 years.
Wow.
Yeah, I got paid so great. Oh man, he treated me like $1,000,000. You know, in Atlantic City, Egg Harbor City area in New Jersey, and he treated me like $1,000,000 bucks. And through him, I got to meet a lot of big names too. You know, Rock and Rebel, which coincidentally passed away the way he passed away, same way Benoit did, but that's another story.
Ooh.
Tracy Smothers, I met him down south in Tennessee. Actually, no, I'm lying to you. Met him in New Jersey at an ECW show in the mid '90s, but then later on I met him in Tennessee in the 2000s, late 2000s, I should say. Who else? Danny Doring, Ricky Reyes. You had quite a bunch of indie guys from the New Jersey Northeast area that were there as well, and Tommy Cairo ran a tight ship, and people respected him and so on. So it was great. But like I said, Tommy Cairo saved my life, and my trainer literally says this, and I have it on my messenger, my DM. He says a part of the reason he never really charged me a dime because he said he knew the neighborhood I came from. Once he knew that, he didn't want me to be a victim of the neighborhood, so he figures if he can open his training school to me for nothing, that I'd be inclined to keep going, which I pretty much did. And he kept me. He said he did that to keep me out of the streets. And the part where I grew up at in the Bronx. I mean, I was born in Spanish Harlem, which is the Upper East Side of Manhattan, and raised in the South Bronx. Soundview, the Southeast Bronx. And it's if you Google Soundview houses, Google will probably tell you the gritty part, but there's other stuff there that I could tell you stories for days, dude. Now, you know, one comedian said LA does drive-bys,
Yeah.
whereas New York City does walk-bys.
Oof.
You know, and not to say that they don't do drive-bys. I'm not saying they don't. But what it is, it's easier to get armed weapons in California as opposed to New York. Not to say you can't get it in New York.
Right.
Don't get that twisted. But see, the way they get it, and a lot of people don't realize this, a lot of these guns come from down south. Because down south, you can go to damn near any pawn shop and they clear you criminally, where they'll just call you a quick background check and you're cleared. You can purchase as many guns as you want.
100%.
You know what I'm saying? I was in places in Tennessee, in clubs and bars, where dudes is walking with their sidearm like they popo. And I was like, oh, shit, what the hell?
Yeah.
And in California, I know California. Man, listen, California, they shit. Listen, any hood you go to, you know damn well you're gonna find something. That
100%.
being said, yeah. So it's like when the guy told me they do walk by, drive bys. New York, they do walk bys. And it's a pretty damn good reason though, because it's more. I guess New York City is more congested than LA to a
Oh,
degree.
100%. Yeah.
The way the blocks and projects and things like that are built. In California, some of their projects look like little townhouses
Yeah,
and
yeah. No,
houses,
100%. It does.
whereas the projects in New York City, 7 to 10, 20, 30 stories high, and it's
Uh-huh.
usually two buildings connected together.
Yeah.
So you figure if it's two buildings connected together, you got to have at least, let's pretend two buildings is one building. You
Hmm.
got about 20 buildings. Each of those 20 buildings is two buildings. And that's one set of projects. Now, I'm not speaking specifically in terms of how many buildings in general, but
Right.
that's usually how it is.
Yeah.
And the congestion is retarded.
Yeah.
So I don't really see a drive by, and it could be a drive by if you want to off somebody real quick and just take off, because you got to think it's a city of 10 million people, as opposed to LA, which don't even think LA even has half of that. And I don't.
We're
Wait,
about
LA
10. We're about 10, but it's spread out.
what, 10 million LA really?
Yeah, 100%. Just in LA City. We're not even talking about the surrounding areas. We're like 10 to 12, depending. And again, there's a lot of people that might not be
Well,
documented.
they
So,
say New York City is the most densely populated
oh, it
in
is
the
for
United
sure.
States. And it's
Yeah.
densely because it's small, so everybody and their mother is like crammed in there.
Hmm.
LA, I believe, is more spread out, like you said.
Yeah.
But when it comes to population, I mean, the three biggest ones, to my knowledge, is Chicago, LA, and New York.
Yeah. It's
And
yeah. But Florida is making its comeback. Like Miami's like getting up there too.
yeah, but you know what? After a while, most of those people spread out through Florida. And LA and New York City, you either go from one borough to another borough to another borough to another borough. LA, you're going from county to county to county to county. You know,
Yeah, true. That's yeah.
so whether you living in Watts or you're going like to a whole nother
Hollywood.
town,
Yeah.
Hollywood and Vine or whatever, or you're gonna go to, let's say, Long Beach,
Hmm.
which Long Beach is its own city and everything else, but still,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So LA, I think it's more spread out and less. I don't know. I'm gonna look that up later. How much people they got? You got me. I'm intrigued.
Yeah, well, I think you definitely hit the nail on the head where we're not as congested because, like, you were talking about, the tenement, the projects, right? Being 30, stories high. We don't have that. I mean, like on my block, I mean, where I'm at right now, it's maybe a 9 unit, 7 to 9. I think maybe even 7 unit, 2-story building, right? But that's pretty much the deal on my block, and that's it. There's nothing higher than that, and we've got like trees and everything like that. At least the places, I mean, the pictures and videos that I've seen of New York, yeah, way more congested for the same amount of people.
Yeah, that and here's the thing though. But now I don't know who has the most people, which at this point would be a little irrelevant. But I will say
Yeah,
this: look at all these people. And to bring it back to wrestling, yet none of these guys are getting paid with all these freaking people out here.
100%, 100%. Which
Something ain't being done right, I tell you.
I gotta ask you. I mean, what do you? I mean, aside from the pay, right? And you kind of alluded to it and what you view as the major companies right now versus the indies, right?
Yeah.
Um, and you're somebody that, I mean, I actually just pulled up on the Google machine a certain guy named John Blade. It's John Blade.
Oh. Oh God. Oh God. Okay. Well, I'm not really much on Google, the way I should be, because of course you have to have your moderator put in that information for you and all that,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I don't have that administrative moderator to do those things. Johnny Blade was a name. All right. How that came about was All right. Tony Gurria. Uh,
Really?
he was no. He didn't come up with the name.
Okay.
No. I was thinking of a name, and I couldn't really think of a name at the time because Tony. I signed the paper to wrestle Kamala, and I put my name Black Panther. I was hoping he'd let me wrestle in my whole gimmick deal, whatever.
Yeah.
Tony Gurria was like, "Nope, WWE's not going to allow that. Do I have other gear?" I said, "Yes, I do." He says, "Okay, well, you will wear that. Or what's your name?" And right instantly, I was like, "Oh, Johnny Blade." You know, and it's weird though because I didn't, for some reason I don't know where I came up with that name to be honest, and I couldn't really. I still don't know where I came up with that name, but that name stuck for a few years with me back then because of course when I wrestled Kamal and the Nasty Boys,
Yeah.
being that it was on TV and all that. Strangely enough, I was using the same name doing an enhancement with NWA Eastern Championship Wrestling,
Wow.
except they changed the last name. Uh, it was a typo, and it stuck. Johnny Blaze. Uh, at that time, Wu Tang was hot. They was on
Yeah.
fire.
Yeah.
So Johnny Blaze was a nickname being given to, of course, Method Man. Phenomenal rapper, MC. You know what I'm
Oh yeah.
saying?
100%.
You know, but he's not even in my top 20. But that's another story. But still, nonetheless, that Johnny Blaze thing stuck, and that was just then. But the Johnny Blade deal, that was just, I kid you not, it's something I had made up off the top of my head. Um, and the weird part about it was made up about a week before I had to leave to Canada
Wow.
to do that little 3-day tour. And I just made it up. I mean, I'm pretty sure somebody else has the same name. Maybe really, I don't care. It's not like I copyrighted the thing, but
Right.
you know, back then I didn't think I needed to anyway. There wasn't really internet like that,
Right.
and we didn't have phones that can record and so on and so forth
Mm-hmm.
uh, at that time. Well, it wasn't just out; it was about to be out, but not just yet. And anyway, for the most part, uh, yeah, that was pretty much where that came from. And Tony Gurria, of course, he's the one that put together the match with me and Kamala, and the whole format was given to me by Kimchi, who was
Steve
Steve
Lombardi.
Lombardi.
Yeah.
Yeah. He
Brooklyn
told me the
Brawler.
whole format. And then when I went to go back to talk to Kamala, which I really didn't get to speak to him, he was busy playing a Game Boy.
Ha!
Um,
Really? Oh, that's
Kamala was
great.
playing a Game Boy. Yeah, he was playing a Game Boy. I'll never forget that. And him and Barry Horowitz. Barry Horowitz was one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. Very awesome guy. And it was a learning experience. The TV time is different when you're doing TV tapings like that because um, from curtain to curtain, I had only about 5 minutes, 6 minutes.
Wow.
But when it was in the ring, it looked like it was a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
Because when Joey Morella led the way for me to go to
Rest in peace.
the ring, yes, his dad, obviously you know who his dad is.
Gorilla Monsoon.
Yes, his dad was sitting on a long table. They had the monitors. He had his headphones on, little electronic deals, whatever. And he was about, I'm gonna say, 30 to 50 feet away from the curtain, directly in front of the curtain. About 30 to 50 feet, give or take a few, which is where the term gorilla position comes from.
Yep.
Gorilla position comes from that because Gorilla Monsoon always situated himself by that curtain, near the curtain. He was always in that area. And I'll never forget it. It was this one story. And this African American fella, great guy, you know what I'm saying? Uh, he weighed about a buck 95, buck 98. He told Gorilla Monsoon that's how much he weighs. He goes, nah, you're not even this curtain weighing that. You know what I'm saying? For
Yeah.
TV. So he says, "What's your weight again?" The dude was like 220 something.
Yeah.
He had a little height to him. So Venom said, "Okay, your weight is 220." So I'm thinking, damn, he didn't want nobody under a certain weight, then none.
Uh-huh.
Because I guess part of it had to do with credibility.
Yeah. And it's a big man's territory anyway, right? That's, I mean,
Well,
right back
back then
from,
it was. Back
yeah.
then it was, but then there was a transition coming, and of course they were looking for somebody who could fit the underdog uh, 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 view of things, underdog way of things. Somebody that people can get behind, but that you look at him first glance and you know he's not gonna beat their big names or big
Yeah.
stars or whatever. And the guy that took that spot was Sean Waltman, by the way.
Yeah. No,
He was
100%.
given that, yeah, yeah, and he was just being enhancement, and it was being used as enhancement for a lot of these big names until that deal with Razor Ramon putting him
Yep.
over
Yep.
with
Yep.
Moonsault.
At
So,
Manhattan Center.
yep,
100%. Oh, oh, I got
and go ahead.
goosebumps talking about that one.
Yeah, man, I'm telling you. And so there was a shift change in that sense because WWE little by little was really wasn't trying to get with the smaller guys. But then as the 90s progressed, little by little, you started getting guys more on a small level, guys like Dean Malenko, Eddie Guerrero, Perry Saturn, guys like that, Chris Benoit, although Chris Benoit is kind of freaking built, but and Perry Saturn, of course, as well. But
Yeah.
guys like Malenko, Eddie Guerrero, you had Billy Kidman, Rey Mysterio. These guys, Vince years ago would never have given them a second look.
Well, it's
But
also the
because
steroid trial too.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
But
that's actually going to be on Vice, Dark Side of the Ring tomorrow night. Wait, Thursday night. Thursday night. This Thursday night on Vice is the steroid
who?
trial. Vice,
Oh,
the dark
Lord.
side.
Yeah.
Yeah, the dark side of the ring. That is what they're doing. They did XPW last week and whatever, but they're doing the steroid trial. It's, ooh man,
I feel
I'm
bad
waiting
for
for that.
I feel bad what they did to Ric Flair. Now I'm not condoning Ric Flair's uh
Actions.
actions. I'm not by any means condoning it. But I'm thinking this man is old already. I mean, why bring up dirt on him now? Let him live. I mean, that and I could see if it happened right there and then and you guys reported it, it was proven fine, whatever.
Yeah.
But the man, he's old, he's in his 70s. Why would you bring up crap he done did so many years ago? For what purpose? And Dark Side of the Ring made Ric Flair look like a total douchebag, and I was like,
Well,
damn.
well, it's weird because like in terms of the culture, right? Because they had the animated show. I forget what it was, like the Road Stories or Storytime, WWE Storytime, that they played on the network, where they said the same thing and made it in animated form, and it was like a ha 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 ha, like, yeah, that crazy Ric Flair. That's what he does, right? Like, I'm surprised, is that nobody's come after Shawn Michaels. To be absolutely
Oh,
honest with you.
Shawn Michaels got a lot of dirt on him. Oh my gosh.
Oh,
I
bro,
know that
I'm
for
just
a fact.
saying, yeah.
I know that for a fact. But this thing that they play favorites in the WWE. I know that for a fact. Guys, and I'm not taking nothing away from them, but I've heard stories where Shawn Michaels didn't want you a certain way. Even Randy Orton was.
Yeah,
They will
100%.
literally go. They will literally go to Vince, and Vince would listen to Randy Orton or Shawn Michaels or so and
Yep.
so, and be like, "Listen, no, screw that." John Cena, he would listen to John, and to me, I think John Cena is doo doo, but he is a humongous draw.
Oh,
So
100%. Yeah.
I can't take away that from him. He's a hell of a draw. But Lord have mercy, dude. Like, sheesh.
What's his
You
name?
know, I,
The guy that Kevin Kiley, who wrestled as what is it, Alex Riley with the Miz, right? Like, that dude was over. The "Say It to My Face" theme song. That motherfucker was over, and all it
yeah,
took was
but
Cena to fucking shit on him to Vince. There it goes. No more puss.
That's it. That's it. You're right. But you know what? The one guy on a business level I gotta give credit to. A lot of people may not like him, but as a business level, he is a freaking genius. I gotta give it to the Miz.
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, he has his own reality show.
Mm-hmm.
On top of that, he knows his worth. I mean, the dude's a multi-millionaire.
Yes, he is.
And I mean, the dude's got double-digit millions. He's
Mm-hmm.
up there. And he's got a hot wife. You know, he's got kids. He's good to go. He's doing it right. Another guy on a business level I got to give credit to is JBL. He invested his money big time, and the
Oh,
dude's a
100%.
multi-millionaire.
He
So
lives in
he's done great.
him and Eric Clapton live in the same like gated community in I believe it's Barbados or
Yes, they do.
Bahamas
Yes, they
somewhere.
do.
Yeah.
Yes, they do. You know, but not to change the subject. I knew I gotta say this. I gotta give up my top 10. I don't know why I'm doing that, but it's just popped in my head. Top 10 lyrically, and I don't see nobody beating my top 10. Literally, my
Okay.
top 20 alone. My top 20 alone, nobody's gonna beat. But my top 10, sorry, Rakim, Coogee Rap, KRS One, Big Daddy Kane,
Okay.
Big Pun,
Okay. Boricua.
Big L, Eminem,
Okay.
Nas,
Okay.
Redman.
I like it.
A lot of people don't. Yo, Redman is that. I'm telling you,
Oh yeah,
he is that
100%.
dude. And Jadakiss.
Really? Okay.
Jada. Now, if I was to go into my top 20, I would add Big Pun's son.
Okay.
Big Pun's son, he's fine. Not because he's his son, but the dude lyrically is freaking phenomenal. And then you got what's his face? There ain't too many new school artists I like, but Ice Cube is one of them. I like him.
Mhm.
Scarface. Ice Cube, Scarface, T.I., Ludacris. That would bring it up to 15.
Mhm.
The
He's
other
up
five
there.
I can't think of, but the dudes I mentioned are lyrical freaking titans. You know, if you go on YouTube and you type in Coogee Rap lists his top 10,
Oh, 100%.
Coogee Rap himself called Eminem a lyrical beast.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And it pisses me off how people treat Eminem, and I'm gonna tell you why. Because I'd be like this: if Eminem was black or Puerto Rican, now you know
Mhm.
blacks and Puerto Ricans have been together through thick and thin. That goes for Dominicans and Cubans as well, but mostly Puerto Ricans in the hip hop game. Let's be real here. And they've been together through thick and thin. Grandmaster Cass, I know him personally, lives in my hood in the Bronx. Um, Cold Crush Brothers. But now, that being said, what I was trying to say, you know, my deal is with my top 10 or the 15 I just mentioned. You know, I tell people to this day, there's no MC out now, none that can literally beat even the dead ones. Oh, and Biggie's up there too, by the way. I forgot to mention Biggie,
Okay, I
Notorious
was like to say.
B.I.G. No, he's definitely a part of that list. But my point is, uh, uh, lyrical giant. These guys are like lyrical titans. Like I was just hearing this one song Eminem did. It's an old track, and the name of the song is "Still Don't Give a Fuck." And I'm thinking, okay, let me hear it. He goes, uh, um, something. I spent $1 million a track and went over my budget. Now, how the fuck am I supposed to get out of debt? I can't rap anymore. I just murdered the alphabet. What the?
Yeah, coming
Yo!
out of left field. Yeah, no, 100%.
And a lot of people don't want to bump Eminem because a lot of the hood cats and then this dude from Brand Nubian just player hating on Eminem. A lot of hood cats won't bump Eminem, and that's true to a degree. A lot of cats in the hood won't bump him. But when it comes to battle rap and everything else, you couldn't pick a better dude to freaking battle for you. Because Eminem is a battle rapping beast, you
Oh,
know.
1,000%.
And I tell people this, man. If he was black or Puerto Rican, y'all would be playing him. But
Yeah.
because he's white and he raps the way he does, y'all like, oh, screw that. Nah. He was on BET rap sessions thing. And who
Uh-huh.
was rapping with him? It was him, Black Thought, and KRS-One. And KRS-One to me is like, you better watch it because
That's
KRS-One will
what
literally go.
I didn't hear you mention KRS One.
Oh no, yes I did in my
Oh,
top
did you?
10.
Okay,
Yes
all
I
right.
did.
I was about to say,
He's
fucking
part of the Big Four.
yeah,
He's part of the Big
100%.
Four. KRS-One, Big Daddy Kane, Rakim, and Coogee Rap.
Yeah,
But
100%.
that versus battle was crazy though. But that's beside the point. That KRS-One, he's got battle songs for anybody who wants to come at him.
Hmm.
His bars is crazy. He literally feels in his heart nobody can touch him. That's just the way his mentality is. And
But he's right though.
I mean, KRS-One is just, and for his age, to
Uh,
spit the way he do for his
he gets,
age.
and it doesn't even matter that. Like he gets, like if he was talking to like fucking, let's say if he was on Sesame Street, he could he'd spit a fucking clean fucking 16 bars that'll blow your fucking mind. Have Elmo shitting himself, but then we'll go over in the most like fucking hardest, grimiest fucking place and tear shit up. Like KRS
Yo, what
One in terms of
happened?
battle rap,
Hey, yo,
like
let me ask you a
top
question. Not to
three.
cut you off. Whatever happened to that dude from LA, Gorilla Black?
Didn't follow him at all.
Now, I need you to do me a solid when you get a chance.
Okay.
Go on YouTube and hear his music. The dude,
Okay.
close your eyes. When you hear his mouth, the way he talks, his cadence, everything sounds exactly to the letter as like Biggie Smalls.
Damn. Right. What's the
He
kid?
sounds exactly voice, cadence, flow, everything exactly. Like there was a time where I thought Biggie recorded extra music, and I'm hearing it. I'm like, oh, this song is bad. It was with Beanie Man,
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
and
You said
a
Gorilla
song
Black?
Gorilla Black had, but it was Gorilla Black. And when I found out it was Gorilla Black, it's like, oh shit, he sounds exactly like Biggie. I mean, they try to say Shine does, but this dude sounds exact. Like, if you close your eyes, you literally would think it's Biggie Smalls.
Damn.
But now, if you look
Okay.
at the video with your eyes open, you're gonna be, oh, that ain't Biggie. But the
Yeah.
dude sounds exactly to the letter. To the I've always wanted to know what happened to him because I thought he was a tremendous artist. Somebody told me he stopped making music because people were comparing him to Biggie, and a lot of people didn't want to play him because he sounded a lot like Biggie. And he said he can't help that. That's just how his voice is. So
Yeah.
I don't know if that's an actual deal there, but I was like,
Well,
damn.
I mean, he just did a podcast 6 days ago, or at least they released it 6 months. I mean, 6 days
Did they
ago.
really?
Yeah, he did the FD. Let me see if I can actually bring it up on screen. Let's see the screen share, what have you. Blah 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 blah. There we go.
Biggie. I like Gorilla Black. Gorilla Black was
Yeah,
that dude.
yeah. So I mean, he did Vlad TV 6 months ago, and then this it's FDS podcast, and he did that. What
Oh,
was
I
it?
gotta check
six
that
days
out
ago.
then.
Yeah, yeah. You just throw it in the YouTube machine, and yeah, no, it comes up. But I'm not sure. This is the first time I ever hearing about it. For me, I in many ways, right? Just like how they say, the Don McLean has that song, "The Day the Music Died," and it was when Big Bopper, Richie Valens, Buddy Holly died in the plane crash. Buddy, what is it? Jerry Lee Lewis married his cousin. Elvis went to the military. Like all of that shit, right? Well, for me, when Biggie and Pac died, it kind of killed hip hop for me because I was just like, fuck, man. Like, do I really? And not that I was in the streets or anything like that, but I'm all like, fuck, man. Like, you're just gonna die for shit you say or fucking beef. And I was like, whatever. The last time I really got into it, I would say, yeah, it was like Eminem, D12, 50 Cent. But the thing about 50 Cent was like, I remember. Shout out to Eric Crowell, my fucking economics teacher, my senior year of high school at Inglewood High, right? They say Inglewood always up to no good. It's really good. It's really good. It's not Watts or Compton, but there's also nothing wrong with Watts or Compton. But Eric Crowell, he was just like, man, these beats are fucking awesome that they can literally get a fucking gorilla to rap on it. You don't know what the fuck he's saying and whatever. This might be the death of hip hop. Now he says that, and then you go at like, it's never been an easier time to be an MC or whatever the fuck. But like when you have Little Yachty, right, who is he's a millionaire, right? tattooed face and everything. But to me, as a West Coaster, the birth of hip hop is fucking New York. Anybody that says that it says different is fucking full of shit, right? But when you say you go on to Hot 97, right, and they ask you to spit bars, and you're wearing a fucking NWO shirt, you stupid son of a bitch, right? You're wearing a fucking wrestling shirt, and you can't even fucking spit bars? Get the fuck out of here.
Well, if you go to New York and they tell you spit bars, you can't. There's a problem.
Right, and Little Yachty is it. Fuck it. There was a I think it might have been Source, right? Where they had like it was like a freshman, whatever the fuck, whatever. But it was guys that were going to be like the next face of rap and whatever, right? I couldn't fucking understand any of them. But for me, who killed it was this dude, Little Dicky. Little Dicky fucking scorched all of those motherfuckers. But like also of a different era, Little Dicky is okay. He's okay, right? You know,
a white dude.
Yeah, he's okay. But he fucking, I think it was like Little Yachty, designer with this weird fucking finger shit and whatever the fuck. And I'm like, this dude who looks like somebody's dad, but he's like 20 something, like he looks like somebody's drunk dad or the guy at the frat party.
Hair and all,
Yeah. And he burnt everybody. There was like at least 4 fucking other rappers, and he, like Little Dicky was the fucking star out of it. And that's the face of rap. Or even like that Extentacioni guy or whatever the fuck, who goes on Instagram and is like, I got this fucking Louis Vuitton full of fucking money, and I'm buying this luxury car. And I think that happened in Florida, right? Like, I'm buying this luxury car, and if y'all want to get at me, get at me. Well, guess what happened? Somebody got at him and shot his fucking ass, right? And that's the power of like not only like shitty hip hop, but also because further and further removed are people removed from DMC, Run DMC, and KRS-One, and Public Enemy, and Pac, and Biggie, and Big Pun, and so with that all being said, right? He's like, get at me, right? They fucking shoot him dead, take the money, and you know how they fucking found him? The people, the 2 dudes that did it, because they posted it on Instagram on an Instagram live.
Oh my god!
Okay, right? One further, the mother of this Extentacioni guy comes on because they did a little memorial where where he got shot and whatever, and apparently they were under a custody battle, right, over their son, right?
Yeah.
And what ends up happening is she brings a teddy bear and his favorite pair of Beats headphones. The Tentacioni guys' fucking fans burn both in front of her because she was slandering their hero by saying he might not be the best father, right? And there was ongoing litigation where that was going on, right? And then you know what she does? She goes to the car and goes on Instagram Live. I don't know what. She might as well have been fucking spitting mumble rap verses because you couldn't understand anything she was saying. And yes, grieving is weird. I lost my parents. Still to this day, I'm kind of fucking grieving my parents, even though it's almost, 10 years removed in one instance and almost a decade removed, right? But I'm still mourning my fucking parents, right? Wow. Especially during this time. They died in December. My dad dies Christmas morning of 2010. So this fucking time is hard for me, right? But she gets on the fucking Instagram Live, Tentacioni's fucking, former spouse or whatever the fuck, and can't even, you might as well have been fucking, spitting mumble rap. And I'm just like, that's this fucking generation's hip hop. Anybody was like, you need to listen to, and I'm like, no, I'm bumping Eric Clapton records and fucking Stevie Ray Vaughan, and I'll be out here later.
Anyway, listen, before I let you go, because I gotta make a few phone calls here, I want to say thank you for having me on. It was
Absolutely.
more than an honor, and I greatly appreciate the format and the platform you've given me. I just want to shout out
Yeah, just get some
October
shout outs,
30th.
plug your shit.
October 30th, Miami, Florida. Reefer Mania 9 is going to be on and popping. I have that posted on my Facebook. October 30th is going to be crazy. Tuco Scorpio, Elijah Pope, myself going to be in the steel cage. Well, not with Tuco Scorpio or anybody else. It's me and a guy named Joey Chaos. Um, After that, I got, of course, Colorado and other shows here in Florida coming up on the come up. And I just want to tell these promoters out here, stop being cheap. Remember, it's a business, and as far as for the people that think they know rap music or hip hop, remember, hip hop's not the music, it's the culture.
Mm-hmm.
And rap is just a part of it, along with b-boying, graffiti, and so on. But I just wanted to get that out the way and thank you again for
Hell
having me
yes.
on.
Absolutely. And where can
Um,
people find you on social media?
okay, I'm on Facebook. I'm super simple, dude. I'm probably the most simplest guy to find. Panther Rodriguez. I'm the only Panther Rodriguez with nothing but wrestling. My profile photos got Luthez and Tonga Kid and my trainer and yes, absolutely. Luthez, Tonga Kid, Phantasma, Carlos Colon, the Wild Samoans, Samu, um, Samala Lee, and some other dude that I can't remember his name, and of course me. So you can find me on there on Instagram, Panther.Rodriguez 3. But you can also, they're intertwined, so you can always go back and forth on that. I'm super easy to find. I answer all my messages. If you message me, believe you not, chances are I will respond.
Damn
So I'm
right.
like, very,
Hell,
I'm very open.
absolutely. Well, Panther, thank you for everything that you contributed to the business. Thank you for being on this podcast, and thank you guys for joining us here at the According to Woods podcast. And if you haven't already done so, go ahead and like, share, and subscribe to the According to Woods podcast on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. I mean, Panther, you're subscribed to the podcast, aren't you?
I am now.
Hell yes. So be like Panther, be like me, subscribe to the podcast. If you don't believe me, you don't believe Panther, and I don't know why you wouldn't. Well, here's Zeta Zhang to convince you.
Hey, this is Zeta Zhang. Make